Hi guys, this is Sushil and welcome to You Next Officer. So today we're gonna discuss about international relationships answer writing for GS2 as well as political science and international relationships second paper. We would discuss both of them. First we would look at how GS2 answer has to be written, and eventually we would also ensure that we get that additional points, additional mention of scholars when added. It will be helpful to write for paper 2 of optional. Okay, let's get started. Today's question is highlight recent development in bilateral relationships with Bangladesh and what are straining issues in bilateral relationships. And the keyword here is explain. So when they say explain, I think you will understand that they gave some free hand instead of calling for critical analyze or analyze. They told you to give that points with in a proper manner, but they gave some freedom to choose your own content. Yet ensure you don't write pretty mediocre content, and also you need to, instead of bringing the best possible answer, you need to be above average at least, because all that you can afford is at max 10 minutes for 250 word answer, nothing more than that, because you need to write more answers. You need to ensure you finish all the 20 questions which are in paper within the time limit. So today let's focus on answer writing, which could be done in 10 minutes. Not producing the best possible answer, we would optimize moving towards the best possible answer, and we would reach to a stage where it is above average at least, so that we can get 9 out of 15 if possible. So that's the target. So let's start. An introduction. Whatever comes to your mind when we say about India Bangladesh relationships, I presume first thing that comes to your mind is that India helped Bangladesh with their formation. Probably yes, but don't start with such introductions, because whenever you mention about a relationship with a neighbor, don't put in a way that we are helping you and we are showing some big brotherly attitude, and don't do that straight away in the introduction. So instead, you can write something like we share common civilizational values, because people to people ties are something uh, where we look at what we call a common root that connects us is something will be a good introduction. So you can write like India and Bangladesh are not just intertwined with cultural and civilizational links, but also share common problems with solutions as well. Because if you find something like Grameen Bank, all those self-help groups are common problems with common solutions that we inherit and also solve with a similar understanding of the society. Then another way where you can introduce could be about national anthems. Uh, the same Bangla and Bengali culture ties helped us with something else where both the countries admire Rabindranath Tagore, and both the national anthems Amar Shona of Bangla and our national anthem as well, Indian national anthem as well, been written by Rabindranath Tagore. So you can think about national anthem as well. while introducing. Okay, so that's how you can introduce. Okay. As we move forward, whenever you start with the body, say take a particular keyword or something which will ensure you get proper body, like for suppose whenever you have the immediate neighbors, maybe Bhutan, maybe Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, where even in the bilateral ties, those countries would expect us to help them, but not with a big brotherly attitude to interfere in their internal matters, is what not just with India, even with other countries, with any other powerful countries or who could help them, they want those helps with no big brotherly attitude. So I think uh, in the foreign policy, our former Prime Minister's Gujarat doctrine is something which is definitely should be mentioned, which would add to the value. So Gujarat doctrine is something I feel should be like a keyword here. So you can start with Gujarat doctrine. So Gujarat doctrine is something we are starting with. Even in the GS2 or political science international relationship optional, we would go with this Gujarat doctrine. I think this blue is visible, right? Hope this is visible. If not, I would change the color for next annotations that I write. Okay. So Gujarat doctrine is something we thought of while introducing body. And here, as we move forward, the question was asking what are the straining points in the bilateral ties. So before that, let's start on a positive note first and enlist them and then move to the friction. So we can say, we can here draw a diagram or a flowchart whereby we mention, see, don't take more than some 7-8 points because your brain thinks in unlimited dimensions and might give you some 20 points which can't be accommodated in limited time. So first thing that comes is we both produce jute and we are top 1 and 2 in terms of jute production. So that jute and apparel or natural fibers, whatever we do, you can mention that jute is one thing. And other than that, India has given tremendous contribution in production of power. So power is one other sector where we help them build power plants. We export somewhere around 660 megawatts of power. And guys, this 660 megawatts I'm able to remember because I'm an electrical engineer. Not necessarily everyone is able to. So, and it's just a figure. Don't strain yourself with exact figures because you need to remember a lot of things. So this is something. And then uh, if and again there are some other people, set of people who don't get everything in their mind immediately, maybe because of they have something else to remember, prepared something else. So for them, if nothing comes, even these days cricket is helping to build people to people ties. Both the countries have cricket enthusiasts, so cricket can be mentioned sport. And then comes health tourism. This is very very important, and guys, if you don't know, ensure you know something about health tourism. At least 50% of health tourism that India has is from Bangladesh. So health tourism, I think you understand what health tourism is. Patients from Bangladesh come here for treatment. So that's something you can mention. And something we also have something in progress with Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, and Nepal with the BBIN agreement. So BBIN agreement could be mentioned. We also have train services that would link Kolkata with Dhaka, Kolkata with Kulna, and I think it's Akuna with Agartala, I think. I'm not sure about it, but train service which links both the countries the same way we have some Samjhauta Express with Pakistan. We also have train services. Okay, so with train services, we got some 6 points. So if you want to mention something else as well, you can mention we have that historic 100th Constitutional Amendment Act. So that 100th Constitutional Amendment, where we signed an land border agreement to resolve the long-standing issue of enclaves. So that I think 7 or 8 could be enough. You can make a flow chart or diagram, something else to accommodate in possibly a lease space. So that's where, and now you can go for points where we have straining issues. Okay, here with the straining issues, I think normal GS2 and international relationships answer in optional should differ. So what are straining issues? We have Teesta Rivers uh, issue where we have problem with the domestic politics interfering with international agreements. Though center reserves rights to implement international treaties imposing on states, still that will create a different notion of centralization and against the spirit of federalism. So that you can mention here when you're writing for GS answer. So this is something. And in optional, here you need to mention a scholar if possible. Uh, Whenever you find some water sharing issues or something between China, India, or Bangladesh, India, we have a lot of rivers commonly flowing, even with the Indus water. You have a scholar who is expert in it. His name is Brahmachalani. B-R-A Brahmachalani. Guys, this name you can remember, you can Google it and read his articles for some inputs. So Brahmachalani is someone, his inputs on water sharing issues are really good and it will add to answers of option. So that space you can differ. And then comes famous controversy that we had in last half a decade, Citizenship Amendment Act. With Citizenship Amendment Act, a lot of politics have been played, a lot of opinions have emerged. Let's not get into the controversy, but with relationship of Bangladesh, political party, especially the ruling part, see, whenever opposition makes some allegations, it doesn't matter. But when ruling party makes the allegation, it sounds like India's official statement, and that strained our relationship because people for Bangladesh are being soft targets, at least with the words they were. Bangladesh migrants were targeted, at least verbally. So Bangladesh migrants with CAA is something that comes. Now with optional, you can, instead of going for CAA, where if you write, you need to elaborate this part in optional. The main thing is that in GS you can just mention as some heading and write briefly. But in optional, you need to discuss deeply so that description when you write, you may tend to get into controversy. So to avoid that, instead of putting onus on India, where it would be speaking against the government when you speak about Citizenship Amendment Act, you can choose a different issue like Belt and Road Initiative, which Bangladesh was favorable and joined. Belt and Road Initiative, India don't want Bangladesh to join, but Bangladesh got obliged towards China. So, Belt and Road Initiative, you can show as much animosity as possible over this so that the onus would be put on Bangladesh. So, with training, I think you understood how we are choosing points so that we would put onus on Bangladesh when we have to elaborate in optional, and instead we go for a normal issue where we just discuss superficially so that no much danger of going into controversy. So this is how we write this uh, in the training part, and in the body as we write some 7 8 points favorably, and with friction you have some 4 points, but you choose effectively. And one space where the trade has been affected, which you can write in both, is ban on cattle exports, uh, because government is pushing to stop exporting meat or cattle which will be slaughtered in Bangladesh, as Bangladesh is slightly more consuming the meat than India. So that space uh, is expected to be a friction. So here you can write this point in both the GS, both in GS and in optional as well, because again, if you want to cover it superficially with paucity of time and to avoid controversy, you can do that according to GS, and if you want to elaborate with slight caution, you can go with that in optional. So possibly this can ensure your answer is good enough and with slight unique points. In optional, you can have some leverage to quote a realistic theory about how Teesta River sharing. If you want to mention about Teesta River, you can use the same thing, not initially, but once you reach to climax of your body. You can use this Teesta River sharing issue, how the domestic politics and policies have impact on international order, international anarchic relationships. So that a realism approach could be mentioned. You can analyze that either with neorealism or even with classical realism, how realism comes into picture. So this is something you need to analyze if you want an additional point, which will again give that extra 1 mark which you need. And whenever the answer is not that tough to do, I think it is pretty moderate answer. It is neither easy but not a tough one, definitely not a tough one. So you need to go all guns blazing when you're writing conclusion. So I would I would be fresh enough to produce a better conclusion rather wasting time in body or introduction, because that's what determines your final marks, which would be consolidated. So here I will go for something like Bangladesh is locked by India and northeastern India. India by both sides. So I think you all know how it looks. Here we have this peninsula part. You have Bangladesh here, and then you have northeastern India this side. So this northeastern India would sandwich this Bangladesh. So this you can write a conclusion. I would just uh, move faster and show how I've written the answer. Parallelly, I would discuss how you can present it. So this is the answer which I've written. So you can see culturally we are intertwined by national anthems, and at grassroots level problems you can mention about how Muhammad when we say, when you mention one person from Indian fraternity, Rabindranath Tagore, you can mention about Muhammad Yunus, who got Nobel Prize for that, Grameen Bank and the self-help groups, which even India adopted, and all this Bandhan Bank, all this emerged from there. And you can mention this Gujarat Doctrine. Then after this Gujarat Doctrine, you can list out positive points: health, tourism, cricket, maybe free trade of BBIN, that truck free trade. Then the 100th Amendment, 100 CAA. Then power sharing, train services. Then we went to parts where we have friction. This is more of a GS answer, and here you differ when you write an optional answer, write Brahmachalani there, you write a realism aspect there. That's how you add value to your answer. So this is where your body ends, and this conclusion or way forward, whatever you call it, is something that matters a lot. So here, if you look at that and read out, Bangladesh is landlocked by India and Northeast India, but at no point we should consider our geographical location as a liability. We can transcend mutual economic benefit, which means with the jute exports or even with the fabric, where Bangladesh has been mastering the way we are doing good with the ID services. Bangladesh is leader in apparel exports. So that's where we can mutually share benefits. We have a lot of petroleum products, power exports. So trade is something which ties us with people to people ties after. And you here with cultural ties, you can play that emotional card, but play that carefully. After all, we share water of same river with the name of Ganga and Padma to drink, which fosters brotherhood. So this conclusion, you can shape something that is more appealing in conclusion, because he asked about a general explanation, not critical analysis. So you need to take that leverage and write something where your literary skills are tested, or some emotional appeal, or here the writing skills comes. Here something which you write in an essay could be used here as well. And that skill, you need to always have these kind of emotional things to use that carefully, which fosters brotherhood by drinking same water of Ganga and Padma. And we also say our geographical location should not be a liability with transcending economic benefit, which would be mutually shared. So such conclusion will give you, if at all, if you missed any chance to score extra mark in body or introduction, here you can consolidate and ensure you get at least 9 out of 15 is what I feel. If you're able to produce with good consistency throughout introduction, body, and conclusion. So I think this would help you in balancing, in streamlining your thought process, how an optional answer should differ from GS2. So keeping this in mind, hopefully you can do well. And by this note, we would end the video. So subscribe for further videos, subscribe to the channel, and comment something constructively if you would like to suggest us. And I think today we helped you a lot with the kind of answer writing initiative we brought you. And bye bye. I'm ending on this note.